Hi everyone! Today we are going to be discussing a couple of different topics. The first topic is actually going to be a review of some commands that we have already discussed, and then the second one will be some brand new modification commands that you need to know. So let me just show you what we're going to be talking about today. This is on Canvas, and this is in Module 8, Advanced Modification Commands and Review of Commands. We're going to be reviewing some selection methods, deselection of objects, mirror, rotate, and offset. These are all commands that we've already discussed. And then in a second video, we're going to be talking about some advanced modification tools. So fillet and chamfer, polygon, and polylines, which we'll revisit. Trim, extend, mirror, stretch, and grip. So these all sort of group together. We're going to be talking about those. And then point, divide, and measure. I want you to remember these modification commands that we are going to review. And then I also really want you to master these advanced modification tools because they're really going to be very helpful for you with our next module or a skill set, which is going to be advanced site plan. Okay. All right, so I have a couple of different files open here, and I'm going to say, unfortunately, this isn't a file that is on our server. I have made this up, and I'm going to post it for you to use, but you won't be able to find it on CAD Common, okay? Now, the first thing I want to remind you about is selection methods, and I'm going to talk about mainly crossing windows, okay? And I also want to show you how to add and remove things from a selection set within a command, okay? So I want you to remember that if I kind of hover up here in the top right-hand corner of my screen and I click one time and I take my finger off the mouse button and I move my mouse downward and the bottom to the bottom left of my screen, you're going to see a green selection window occur, okay? Now this green selection window, anything that I touch will be selected, regardless of how much of that item I select, okay? So if I just barely touch a dimension or I barely touch two segments of that wall right there, okay? If I now click, those items are all selected, okay? You can see they're selected because they're highlighted kind of a blue color, and we have these little blue squares show up, which are called grips, okay? I can hit escape to deselect. So if I wanted to, for example, select this entire floor plan, you know, you see me zooming out as well in the middle of that selection set. I can mouse over the entire floor plate, click again, and I have that whole floor plate selected, okay? So that is one way to select objects, all right? I'm going to hit escape. The second way that I can select objects is by using a blue selection window, okay? And the blue selection window is formed by going to the bottom left of my screen or to the bottom left of whatever object you want to select, clicking, moving your mouse over an object, okay? Now the difference between a blue selection window and a green selection window is that, as you can really already tell, a blue selection window won't select anything until you encompass that entire object within the window. So for example, this 11-foot dimension, it's not selected if I just touch it with the window. The second that I sort of move over the entire object, you see it select, okay? You also saw that this inside yellow line of the wall select at the same time, okay? So a blue selection window is just really helpful when you have a lot of geometry, you know, line geometry or drawing on your screen, and you want to be very selective about what you pick, okay? When I use a green selection window, it can select a lot of things, which is great, but on the flip side of that, it can select things that maybe I don't want to select, right, mistakenly. So green selection window, anything you touch it picks, escape. Blue selection window, I have to select the objects in their entirety. Click, okay? I'm going to hit escape. But before I do, I'm going to turn this off. We're going to close that. Hopefully that turns it off forever. If not, we'll deal with it. Okay, we also have the pick, okay? And the pick, if I hover over an object and I click on it, I get a pick, okay? Looks like this thing. Let's do our settings. Uncheck that. Okay. that little dialog box that was turned on was the quick properties dialog box, and it will show me information about things that I select, and I just didn't want that turned on. Okay, so there's the pick, and the pick will allow me to be extremely selective about things that I choose. So if I hover over an object and I click, that's a pick. Click, pick. Click, pick. Click, pick. Okay? Now, one thing that you're going to notice about selecting things in AutoCAD is that it is cumulative, right? So if I click on something else, it adds it to my selection set. It doesn't deselect the other items and then select it, okay? So then I can modify these and do whatever I need to do, right? I could move, rotate, copy. I could change the layer if I needed to. I could delete it if I needed to, all right? So that is selecting things just in general to execute a modification command or do whatever I need to do to them, okay? I'm going to hit escape. Another selection technique that I want to talk about is selection with inside of a command, okay? So for example, if I wanted to copy these lines right here, I could come up here to copy, click. I could select these objects. When I'm done selecting, I hit enter, of course, okay? Now, you know, there's always the chance that you have hit enter too soon and you think, I would really like to add some things to this copy, right? But I'm too lazy. I don't want to hit escape and then hit copy again and reselect. I just want to add something to this selection set, okay? Now, this isn't a very evident way, it's not a very evident command, but if right now, okay, I type A, enter. Oh, I think I hit enter too quickly. Hold on one second, guys. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to move in a little bit different direction. Sorry, I hit escape here, okay? So to add to my selection set, instead of having to select and reinitiate my command here, I'm going to retype in the command, CO, copy, enter, and where it says select objects, I'm going to type P for previous, hit enter, and you notice that the previous selection set was selected, and now I can continue on selecting more items, okay? So there is one way of adding objects to a selection set. You can use the P for previous, okay? Now, another thing that I can do is, sorry, and I just did that very quickly, but I don't want to break my command. If I wanted to remove an object from my selection set while I'm in the command, I can type R at the command line, which I just did, R, enter, and remove objects pops up. So now I can select items and they deselect. I'm removing them within that command, okay? I can type A, add, enter, okay? And now it's like, hey, okay, you want to add more objects to my selection set. Okay, so I can do P for previous as a selection. I can type A for add, or I could type R for remove. And I can do this all within the same command, and the command won't break, okay? So you're seeing copy select objects, okay? I'm already in the add option, so I can add these. R, enter, remove, remove, enter. A, enter. Oh, I hit enter too quickly. Sorry, guys. But you saw previously what I did. So A, enter would allow you to add things, okay? And then I just execute the command as normal, okay? So there is the option once you have sort of initiated a command or you've selected a bunch of things and you need to change something, there is the option to select P for previous, A for add, or R for remove within a command, okay? So that is one thing that I wanted to illustrate, okay? Okay, so selection is really important in AutoCAD. It's going to help you be, number one, precise, but also it really adds to your proficiency within the program. So selecting items quickly and accurately will make you a very fast drafter, okay? So I can come in here and I can select one thing. I can select two things very quickly. I can select three things very quickly, right? Instead of coming in here and click, 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 I want this and I want that, right? So it is an important skill to master, and I really suggest you kind of work on and think about your selection methods, okay? Okay, the next command we're going to talk about and review is mirror. And I'm going to use this little triangle right here so that you can remember how to use the mirror command. So the mirror command is this icon. I can also type MI at the command line, okay? You all know that I'm a keyboard person, and I think that using the keyboard makes you very fast in your drafting. And when you're in school, that may not sound super important, but when you start working professionally, right, people are paying you to be very quick at what you do and to be very precise, okay? And so you have to kind of figure out the best way to make yourself that. And for me, that is using the keyboard, all right? So we're going to talk about mirror. So I'm going to start using the keyboard a little bit more here, but I will speak the commands that I am using. So MI, enter is mirror, okay? Select my objects, okay? Enter when I'm done selecting. And then I need to specify my mirror line, okay? And I've drawn in a pretend, or it's not pretend, but I've drawn in an axis here so that you can visually kind of see what I mean when I say mirror line, okay? So click once, click a second time, erase the source object. Do I want to keep this? Yes or no? And I'm going to say no because I want to keep both of those, and that is mirror, okay? So mirroring is really helpful when you want to create an exact copy of something that is, the exact distance away from the axes from the source object. The best example of mirror, I think, is probably seen in the little preview we get of the command when I hover over it, okay? So you can take one side of an object and you can mirror it about an axis and create an exact identical copy, okay? This would be very helpful, for example, if you had a door in a wall and you wanted the door in the same position on the opposite side of the wall, right? You could mirror the door about the wall. That's my best real world example, okay? I use mirror a lot to make copies of things, essentially. So for me, a lot of times it's the copy command, okay? Let's do this one more time. I'm going to select this triangle and I'm going to hit delete, okay? And I'm going to MI mirror, enter. I'm going to select my object. When I'm done selecting, I could hit enter. Let me just do something really quick here though. Before I hit enter, I'm going to type R, enter, remove objects, and if I needed to, I could remove that, right? A, enter, and I could re-add it, okay? I just want to point that out, right? In the middle of the command, I was able to remove and add things as necessary, okay? I hit enter when I'm done selecting, and I specify my mirror point. Click, click, no, okay? Now I'm going to delete this axis, and I'm going to mirror this triangle again. You don't really need an object to mirror it. You just have to click in space. MI, enter, select the object, enter, click, click, and I just, drew a straight line. And let me just point one thing out. I drew a straight line because and my mirror was straight, okay? To get a perfectly straight line, let me just remind you, we can turn our ortho mode on and off using F8. So F8 on, F8 off. That's this little guy right here, right? Okay. I'm gonna hit enter to finish the command. And now I have that mirrored copy, okay? If I had MI, enter, selected the object, enter, and I had chosen, mouse is frozen a little bit here. There we go. If I had chosen a diagonal, right? Do you see how it's mirroring it, but it's about that diagonal? Or my F8 straight line. F8 off, right? F8 on. Click, enter, there we go. Okay? So that is the mirror command in review. Let's talk about rotate, okay? So rotating an object, the command is RO on the keyboard. Here it is on the ribbon. I can type RO, enter, select the object I want to rotate. Let me remind you, before I hit enter, if I type R, enter, I can remove objects from my selection set. A, enter, I can add them back in, right? Really, really important. I know that we're in class and I know that there's not a ton of lines on my screen right now, but when you are working professionally and you have, 2 million lines in your drawing, and you've just selected 200 lines for whatever reason to complete a task, and you accidentally hit escape or something happens, or you select something you shouldn't, it's frustrating, right? So to have this option to deselect things is very helpful, okay? That's why I'm trying to show it to you, I guess. All right, so I've selected my objects. I'm done selecting. I hit enter to tell AutoCAD I'm done selecting. And I'm going to pick a rotation point. Specify base point. Okay, so if I pick the middle, this object will rotate about the point I pick. So if I pick this middle point, right, it rotates about that middle point. All right. If I select this point here, it will rotate about that point. Okay. The rotation will occur regardless of the base point that you choose, but sometimes the base point can just really help you get things where they need to be, right? Or it can help you visually choose the correctness of your rotation. So I'm going to click this middle point, or somewhat middle point. I guess I could choose the exact center. Let me come down here and let's see, object snap settings. Let's turn on my midpoint snap. And we will just grab that center point. Perfect, right? And I could just click where I want it to rotate, or I could type in a rotation angle down here, right? So I could type in 45, enter, and it rotates 45 degrees, okay? I'm gonna hit U undo, enter, RO, enter, select the objects, enter, click a base point, click rotate. Okay? Rotate you will use day in and day out when you're working professionally. All right. Let's go over offset. So I am going to use this little circle at the end here for offset. Offset for me is a lot like mirror in that I use it to copy things. Okay? A circle is a little bit deceptive in terms of, hey, I want to copy something. So I'm just going to draw a little line out here, okay? Because, for example, if I wanted to create a wall out of a line, I would offset it, 5.5 inches or whatever to get the stud width, and those two lines would then represent a wall, okay? So I use offset to copy objects at a specific distance from the original object, okay? So offset is very easy. I'm going to click on offset right here, okay? The keyboard command is O, enter, all right? So again, I like the keyboard, we know that. So we're going to initiate the command, and then we're going to specify an offset distance, and we can do that two ways. I can click and measure a distance on the screen, or I can input a specific dimension. So right now I could type something like 6 for 6 inches, enter. Okay, I could select the original object, click inside or outside if it will let me. Click, escape, escape. I'm going to pop up here to measure, click, oop, I want to do distance, and I'm just going to measure from, I think I need to turn my quadrant on to be able to grab the edge of that circle, right? If you ever are thinking, hey, I thought we had an object snap here and it's not showing up, you really just need to come over and make sure it's turned on. So I'm going to click on my object snap settings, turn on quadrant, and now I can click, and you click here and you can see it's 6 inches. Okay, there we go, escape, escape. So offset, O, enter, enter your distance, and see it remembered the last distance I had in there. So I could just hit enter for 6 inches again, click, 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 and I move my mouse to the outside and it shows me. I'm starting to like dynamic input a little bit more every time I use it. When I think it was 2008 when dynamic input, the input on at my cursor sort of came into existence, and everybody, it was just so terrible, right? A bunch of AutoCAD nerds out there just went crazy over it, myself included. But I'm starting to kind of like how it's visually showing me how these things are working, right? If you want to turn dynamic input on or off, this is a side note. I'm going to just come to customization, and I'm going to turn on dynamic, dynamic input right here. And you see it showed up right here on my object snap toolbar. So if I turn it off, when I start typing something like LANE, it happens at the command line. Okay, escape, escape. If I turn dynamic input on and I type LANE, it happens at my cursor. Okay, escape, escape. So offset worked really well. It will take an original object and it will offset an exact copy a specific distance off that original object. Okay, and so essentially it does copy an object, but it's at a specific distance. So that's very helpful, for example, when you're trying to generate a floor plan and you want to create a wall system, right? So I can come in here and I can type in line, enter, and it says, oh, excuse me, sorry, I was out of order there. I'm going to type in offset, O, enter, and I'm going to type in 5 dash 1/2 inches, okay, enter, and it says select the object to offset. Well, I want to select this object, click, and I click on the correct side, and now I have one line that is 5.5 inches from a second line, and 2 lines that are parallel to one another that are 5.5 inches apart in AutoCAD. That represents a 5.5 inch wood stud, right? Or 2x6 wall. So you can see here where I said, when I said I use offset to copy things and I use mirror to copy things, right? Here is a perfect example, right? Because I used offset to create a second line that is a copy of the first 5.5 inches away from the original, okay? This is something you will do daily in the professional world, right? Okay, hopefully these commands all make sense. In this video, we reviewed selection methods, adding and removing objects from a selection set, mirror, rotate, and offset, okay? And I think one of the most important things I just want to say to you one more time is that being able to add and remove things from a selection set is a pretty important skill, and it will really, really help you. So don't be afraid to try it out. The first few times you do it, likely you won't be very successful, but eventually you will be, and you'll be very happy that you've mastered the skill, okay? So this is going to end our review of these commands.